Good afternoon. I am Siddhappa MB, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Nyamati, Davanagere. Session 2, Optional English, BA course, Paper 9, 20th Century Literatures 1. In this session, I am going to discuss T.S. Eliot and his poem The Hallowman. Related to this, I am discussing about the brief biography of the poet T.S. Eliot, his important works, title of the poem The Hallowman, and epigraph 1. So in this session as a whole, I am trying my level best to discuss these concepts. These are the learning objectives of this session. To enable students to understand T.S. Eliot and his works, to enable students to know about his contribution to literary field, and the session outcomes of this session are: students will be able to understand the title of the poem and they'll enjoy the concept of modernism. We know that T.S. Eliot was born in St. Louis of Missouri of United States of America in 1888. The full form of T.S. is Thomas Stearns Eliot. Remember, he was the American by birth but settled and became the citizen of England later. He is a very famous modern classical writer. He was the poet, dramatist, essayist, and editor. And he had given a very great contribution for the modernist movement that took place in England with Ezra Pound. And he moved to England in 1914 at the age of 25. That I already told you, he became the British citizen in 1927 at the age of 39. And he married Vivian Howard, was a British woman, and the newlyweds stayed in the flat of Bertrand Russell, another famous philosopher of England. You know that she was sick and there was no married happiness with her, and he was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature in 1948 and the Order of Merit in 1948, in the same year. And by being a great poet of the 20th century, these are some of his famous poems. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, it was published in 1915. The Wasteland, it was published in 1922. Journey of the Magi, published in 1927. Ash Wednesday, published in 1930. Little Giddings, published in 1942. Four Quartets, published in 1943. See, these are all the very important and notable poems of T.S. Eliot. In the poem The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, he is telling something about the split personality of the character Alfred Prufrock. And coming to the poem The Wasteland, which was published in 1922, here It is a monumental poem. It is the magnum opus of T.S. Eliot, in which you are going to see the modernist poetry's salient features as a whole. And it was published in 1922. This comprises of 5 different sections, beginning by Burial of the Dead, and it ends by What the Thunder Said. See, this poem has an epigraph also. Sibylla, what do you want? But her reply was, I want to die. See, modern people are at that crisscross. He is trying to tell us the modernity and how the modern people are disillusioned, devastated, and how they have lost the religious faith. And in this poem, Tiresias, who has experienced both as male and female, and who knew the past, the present, and also the future, is the speaker of the poem, and it is the interior monologue of him. So, by picking up number of allusions from different literary texts, and he has composed this poem. It is a wonderful poem. By being a literature students, all must read this poem. And it has 434 lines. It begins by the lines like, April is the cruelest month. See how the modern world is being degenerated, and how this world has neglected the spirituality, and how their life is being reduced to the level of the animal. And there is the major themes like, there are the major themes like lust, death, things like that. And the next important poem is Ash Wednesday and the Journey of the Magi. So it is also one of the most famous and ever read poem, in which the 3 wise men from the east made a journey to where Jesus Christ was born, and it depicts the difficulties they faced on the way to get blessed from Jesus Christ. Okay, and the next poem is the Halloween that you are going to study in this session. And these are all some of the important works of him. And coming to the plays, he had written some of them. Okay, before going to discuss the plays, I would like to tell you something about his poetical theory. His poetical theory is called as impersonality theory, in which he says that poetry is not turning loose of emotions, but an escape from emotion, not an expression of personality, but an escape from personality. He regards poems as the medium of expression. You are also going to study this concept in Unit 2. The essay or the prose is the tradition and the individual talent. Okay, and as a dramatist, he had written these important plays: Murder in the Cathedral, performed in 1935; The Family Reunion in 1939; The Cocktail Party, 1950. Among them, the Murder in the Cathedral. Murder in the Cathedral is vastly read play of T.S. Eliot, and it is a tragedy. Here, the important character is Thomas Becket. Thomas Becket was the clergyman, archbishop of Canterbury, and he had some clashes or the conflicts, religious and political conflicts, with that of the king Henry II. The year is 1170. Yes, here the Archbishop Thomas Becket is being brutally murdered by the knights, but he was steadfast. He did not get any compromise with the king. And there are some important lines that we cannot forget as a literature students. Unreal friendship may turn to real, but real friendship once ended cannot be mended. See the dialogues in that poetical drama, Murder in the Cathedral. And the next one is the last act is the greatest reason to do right deed for the wrong reason. This is the dialogue delivered by Thomas Becket in the middle of the play. And in another context, one more dialogue is there. The Christian martyrdom is never an accident, for saints are not made by accident. Look at this thing. This is being said by Thomas Becket. Real power is purchased at the price of certain submission. Thomas Becket. So these are all some of the important lines that you come across while reading Murder in the Cathedral. And coming to family reunion, it has some elements of Greek drama. Cocktail party, another important play. The confidential clerk, this is also another important play written by him. And being a prose writer, he has published a number of articles and essays in the various periodicals and journals. Among them, the famous ones are The Use of Poetry and The Use of Criticism, The Tradition and Individual Talent, Poetry and Drama, The Function of Criticism, The English Metaphysical Poets, Ezra Pound is Metric and Poetry, The Sacred Wood. These are all the important essays that he has written. So he had also written some of the prose pieces apart from poetry and plays. Yes, this is the brief introduction to Thomas Stearns Eliot. Holloman and modernism. Yes, modernism is promoted by T.S. Eliot and Ezra Pound, that I already discussed in the last session. Poetry to suit modern age, and it promotes greater realism in literature. So modernism that comes after the First World War, they have disgusted and disillusioned just because of the First World War that broke out in 1914, ended by 1918, and they have seen the horrors of the war. It has totally destroyed the civilization, especially the Europe. It has completely involved in it, and many people, especially the soldiers, have lost their body organs, and they were almost wounded. Many of them have lost their lives in the war, and many people, they have also lost their health, and their psyche was not at all so healthy then afterwards, we have seen. And their writings move towards realism. The realities of life that are being written are shown in their writings. And return to common speech. This is another important uh, feature of this modernism, and that you are going to see in the Holloman. The Holloman as a whole, a very simple and common speeches are being used. We are the Holloman, we are the stuffed man. Look at these lines. See, such lines are common speeches are being seen in this poem, and hence it is also one of the modernist poems. Importance given to metaphor. See, metaphor, extended metaphor that are quite common in his poems. Take for example the first line, we are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men. See, in these two lines we are going to see the metaphors. They themselves are comparing and calling them as the um, hollow men, and the second one is stuffed men. So that you are going to see. Such features are common in this poem. And the psychological reality. See, this is another important theme that we are meeting while reading the poem. Psychological reality and certain instances are being seen throughout the poem if you read. See, psychologically, they are totally depressed and they are devoid of spirituality, and they are doing neither good thing nor bad thing. They are not even fit for hell also once they die. So they were worrying and worrying about their inactive life, and they were not at all active. Okay, so and the next concept is the stream of consciousness style is being extensively used, and the use of recurring motifs that are quite common throughout this poem as a whole. You are going to see the motifs, organization of music. So wonderfully these poems are being composed. Take for example, we are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men. There is a kind of music or music of ideas that are being seen in this poem. And at the end of the poem, he also picks up the nursery rhyme, and he goes on. Here we go around the mulberry bush is the nursery song, but its perverted form is being taken. Prickly pear, like that. So there is the music of ideas. Organization of music is quite common in the 20th century poetry. Use of allusion. T.S. Eliot is an expert in using the allusions. He had picking up a number of allusions from different works, especially from the Greek, French, and some other literary works like that. So take for example in this poem, The Hollow Men, there are two epigraphs. Both of them are taken from different works. One is literary, what we call allusion, that is the Mr. Coates, he dead. It's said to be the literary allusion. It is taken from Joseph Carnot's novel The Heart of Darkness. And the second one is the gunpowder plot of England. So it is an historical allusion. So he had used these allusions in his poetry as the epigraphs, and it tries to convince the readers what is the important theme and how to understand the poem later on. And passages from the literature of the past. So this is quite common. If you read The Wasteland, the magnum opus poem, where you come across, it is, I think there are some critics who said that it is the collage. Look at this thing. It is the collage or the pastiche. Pastiche. See, he picks up different lines and incidents from different literary works, and hence such passages in his poems are quite common. So this is also another important salient features of the modernism. Here also you are going to see he has extensively picked up certain passages from literature like Dante's work Inferno, from Purgatory, and you are going to see the rose and the death's other kingdom and the eyes that are being seen in this poem, the Hollow Man. So it is a modernist poem. Self-conflicting ideas are also being seen in this poem, as in all the poems of modernism. And despairing tone. So this is another important thing. You take the wasteland, Ash Wednesday, the journey of the Magi, and the wasteland, and even the Hollow Men. A despairing tone is common. That is the thing. So all such features are there in the Hollow Men, apart from some other poems of the modernists. So it is the modernist poem. This is the Hollow Man picture. See, both Hollow Men are inactive, and it is a desert land where the cactus is there. It lives on its own without much water, and nothing is there. The modern world, which is devoid of spirituality, is the desert land, and the European country, after the First World War, is actually a hollow country or empty country. So in such a way, lines or means, we need to understand this poem. According to Eliot's philosophy, men must do either the good thing or the bad thing. And if a person doesn't do either the good thing or the bad thing or the evil thing, he is the worst of all. So, in Dante's Inferno, it is stated that all persons or the people, once when they go after their death, if they have done good thing, they are directly sent to the heaven. Bad thing or the evil things, those who have committed, they were sent to the hell. And there are some people they could correct themselves if certain training is given, and they were sent to some other land. And there are some people who are not worthy of these, are not at all taken away by Charan, the ferryman, who is to make these their souls to cross the river Styx. I think the fourth category of people are the hollow men. They neither did good thing nor the evil, and they were denied of both of these, and hence there is the dissolution in every walk of their life that is being seen. Next, let us directly go to the title of the poem. Right, the hollow men. This is the title of the poem. Remember, the Hollow Men is the title. According to some critics, it is the combination of William Morris's poem, The Hollow Land, and the Rudyard Kipling's poem, The Broken Man. The first half of William Morris's poem, The Hollow, is taken, and the last part of Rudyard Kipling's poem, The Broken Man, is taken. And then this title is given according to some critics. And there is one more critic who has opined that Hollow Men is the direct reference from the passage of William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, in which the passage runs like this: there are no tricks in plain and simple faith, but hollow men like Arsa's hot hand. So here is the term or the phrase hollow men. This is being taken from Julius Caesar of William Shakespeare's play. So it is the another thing or the phrase or the title taken from. So this is the opinion. Now let us directly go for the title of the poem. After understanding the title and how it is being derived, now let us directly go for the epigraph. What is an epigraph? An epigraph is a short quotation. Epigraph is a short quotation, phrase or poem that is placed at the beginning of another piece of writing. One piece of writing is placed in the beginning of another piece of writing. This is very important. To encapsulate that work's main themes and to set the tone, it is called as an epigraph. One piece of quotation or line placed in the beginning of another piece of writing, that is called epigraph. So, dear students, in this poem The Hollow Man, you are going to see the two epigraphs. Short quotation or the line or the phrase that is being placed in the beginning of the poem, that is, Mr. Goods, he dead. This is the epigraph 1. Mr. Goods, he dead. See, this is the literary allusion. It is the literary allusion to Joseph Carnot's novel The Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness. And here, now let me tell you something about what happened there. In which the European ivory trader Goods, who is also called the civilized man, who came to the African continent to enlighten them. Once he came to the continent of Africa, he had collected large amount of ivory and he became a kind of demigod for the people, and he became more and more violent and also a brute, and he started ruling them. Okay, so he did not return to European country or to the company. So the company had appointed another person to take him back, and his name was Marlowe. He came with the help of the tribal people. He made a journey to where Goods was, and he reached the spot. By that time, the servant of Goods told him, see, that manager boy who was the assistant to Goods declared to Marlowe in a scathing tone, Mr. Goods is dead. Look at this thing. So by looking at the background where he lived and what he did, by listening to them, and Charlie Marlowe come to a decision that he was a hollow man at the core. He was the hollow man at the core because he had empty of faith, empty of personality, and of moral strength and humanity. So this is the main thing. So you need to understand this concept to understand better the poem The Hollow Man. Okay, it suggests that the decline of European culture after the First World War, and Goods was the hollow man. This context is very important to understand the poem. The epigraph 1 is related to this thing. Thank you for watching this video.